The sun was setting over the city skyline, casting long, amber shadows across the private terminal as Hadi stepped off his private jet. For 20 years, he had been a ghost in his own country, building a global empire from the skyscrapers of New York and London. He was a man whose name commanded silence in boardrooms, but today he wasn't a CEO, he was just a father. He had traveled thousands of miles without a single bodyguard or assistant. Driven by a simple, warm desire, he wanted to surprise his only daughter, Vanya. He imagined her hug, her surprised tears, and the proud smile of the man she had married. He thought he was coming home to a sanctuary, but the air in the city felt heavy, as if it were holding a dark secret that he was about to uncover. Hadi decided his first gift to Vanya would be a gesture of grand proportions. He headed straight to the city's most exclusive luxury car dealership, a place where only the ultra-wealthy dared to tread. He walked in dressed simply a plain linen shirt and trousers, looking like any other retiree. As he browsed the rows of gleaming Italian leather and polished chrome, a loud, obnoxious laugh echoed through the showroom. Hadi paused, his instincts sharpened by decades of corporate warfare. He looked toward the VIP lounge and saw a young man, barely 30, draped in a designer suit that screamed new money. This was Rico. Hadi recognized him instantly. Rico was a mid-level manager in one of Hadi's subsidiary companies. A man who, by all accounts, should have been sitting in a cubicle, not buying a $3 million limited edition supercar. Hadi moved closer, blending into the shadows of a large marble pillar. He watched as Rico bragged to a group of fawning salesmen, tossing a black corporate credit card onto the desk with a flick of his wrist. "Charge it all," Rico boasted, his voice dripping with unearned confidence. "My woman told me there's no limit. She handles the chairman's personal accounts, so consider this a gift from the old man himself." The blood in Hadi's veins turned to ice. That old man was him, and that woman could only be Vanya. While Rico was busy signing papers, Hadi pulled out his phone and sent a single encrypted message to his private auditor. Within minutes, a file appeared on his screen. It was a trail of blood, financial blood, for the past 2 years. Millions had been siphoned from the company's emergency reserves into a series of shell companies, the signatory on every single transfer, Vanya, and the beneficiary, Rico. Hadi felt a hollow ache in his chest. It wasn't just the money. It was the realization that his daughter had turned his life-ease work into a playground for a parasite. She wasn't just having an affair. She was funding a betrayal with the very empire he intended to leave her. He watched Rico walk out of the dealership, hopping into the brand new car and revving the engine with a smirk that signaled total victory over a world he hadn't worked for. Hadi didn't stop him. He didn't shout. He simply watched the taillights disappear into the traffic. He had spent his life playing chess. He wasn't going to flip the board just yet. He was going to let them play their hand until the very last card. The next evening, the grand ballroom of the city's finest hotel was a sea of silk and diamonds. It was the welcome home banquet, an event Vanya had organized to celebrate her father's return, or perhaps to keep up the appearance of the loyal, grieving daughter who missed her father. The elite of the business world were there, whispering about the legendary Hadi's return, though few had actually seen his face in years. Hadi arrived early. He didn't enter through the main doors with a fanfare. He slipped in through a side entrance and took a seat at a small, unremarkable table in the far corner of the room. He watched the room fill up. He saw the hypocrisy in every smile and the greed in every toast. Then Rico arrived. He walked in like he was the guest of honor, dressed in a custom tuxedo that cost more than most people's annual salary. He was swaggering, drinking expensive scotch, and barking orders at the waitstaff. He eventually wandered over to the corner where Hadi was sitting. Rico looked down at the old man in the simple suit and felt a surge of misplaced superiority. "Hey, old-timer," Rico said, his voice loud enough to draw eyes. "This table is for the elite. You look like you wandered in from a bus stop. Security must be getting lazy." Hadi didn't look up from his drink. "I'm just waiting for the "Host," he said calmly. Rico scoffed, leaning over and tapping his expensive watch on the table. "The host is my lady, and she doesn't have time for charity cases. Why don't you do yourself a favor and leave before I have you thrown out? You're ruining the aesthetic of my party." Hadi finally looked up, his eyes cold and piercing. "Your party? I didn't realize you owned this hotel, or this city." Rico laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "I own whatever I want to own. I've got the keys to the kingdom, old man. Now get lost. You're boring me." Just then, the double doors at the front of the hall swung open. Vanya walked in, looking every bit the princess of an empire. She was searching the room, her eyes frantic. She needed to find her father to begin her performance. Rico, seeing her, waved his hand frantically. "Vanya, babe, over here." Rico shouted, oblivious to the sudden silence that fell over the room as people realized the chairman had already arrived. "I found a cockroach at our table. Tell security to sweep him out." Vanya walked toward the table, a smile plastered on her face, but as she got closer and saw the man sitting there, the smile didn't just fade, it died. Her face went from flushed pink to a sickly ashen gray. The glass of champagne in her hand slipped through her fingers, shattering on the floor with a sound that felt like a gunshot. "Father?" she choked out. The word echoed through the silent ballroom. Rico's hand, which had been resting arrogantly on the back of Hadi's chair, froze. He looked from Vanya to the old man, and then back to Vanya. The realization hit him like a physical blow. The old man he had been insulting, the stray dog he had threatened, was the man who held the leash to his entire existence. Hadi stood up slowly. The height of his stature seemed to grow as he looked at his daughter. He didn't look angry. He looked disappointed, which was far worse. "I went to the dealership yesterday, Vanya," Hadi said, his voice quiet but carrying to every corner of the room. "I wanted to buy you a gift, but I saw that you had already helped yourself." He turned his gaze to Rico, who was now trembling so violently his teeth were practically chattering. Hadi pulled a stack of papers from his inner pocket, the audit reports, the photos of the secret meetings, and the evidence of the stolen millions. He tossed them onto the table. "You thought I was an old man who had lost his edge," Hadi said to Rico. "You thought you could walk into my house, sleep in my beds, and spend my money while laughing at my ghost. But I've been watching you since the moment I landed." Vanya fell to her knees, sobbing, trying to grab her father's hand, claiming Rico had forced her, that it was all a mistake. But Hadi stepped back. He looked at the crowd, the business partners, the friends, the rivals, and made a public declaration. "As of this moment," Hadi announced, "Vanya is stripped of all corporate authority. And as for this man," he pointed a finger at Rico, who looked like he was about to faint, "the police are waiting in the lobby. Embezzlement, fraud, and theft. You wanted a luxury life, Rico. Now you'll have plenty of time to dream about it in a 6x6 cell." The security guards, who were actually Hadi's private team in disguise, moved in. They grabbed Rico by the arms, dragging him out of the hall as he screamed for mercy, his designer shoes scuffing against the marble he thought he owned. Hadi looked down at his daughter one last time. There was no more warmth in his eyes, only the cold clarity of a man who had survived 1,000 betrayals. He had come home for a surprise, and he had certainly found one. But as he walked out of the ballroom, leaving the wreckage of his family behind, he knew one thing for sure: the empire was safe, and the trash had been cleared out. The king was back, and he wasn't taking prisoners.